Okay, so in this video, we're going to get started with creating our phone stand that you see here. We are going to be creating this in Fusion 360. You have a set of what the plans look like for both of the parts. So you've got the shelf as well as the back or the front, whatever you want to call it. I guess I'm calling that the front. Um, I'll probably end up renaming that back. But you could see we have the plans here with all of our dimensions on it. So we have our overall dimensions here. So it's 3 inches wide by 4.5 inches tall. And then the dimensions are laid out for where all of these parts need to be. So we're going to be referencing these um, plans pretty frequently to make sure that we get our drawings correct. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Fusion 360. Um, you can see here I've got one worked up. I'm just going to start with the shelf. That's what I'm going to go ahead and create first. So we will, I don't need this pane open on the side. I like to give myself a little bit more room. When you open up Fusion 360, it should always start you out with a new untitled workspace. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to create components. So we're going to do things a little bit differently. It'll make it easier. We can work on multiple components within the same drawing. So the first thing I want to set up is I'm going to go ahead and set up my components. I'm going to go to Create, and I'm going to click on Create New Component. Okay, so we're going to name this component. So this is going to be the shelf. All right. So I just go ahead and name it. The parent company is selected. I'm going to check off Activate because I want to create both of my components right now. So my parent company is my parent part that I'm going to be creating this under is here. So right now it's not saved as anything, but you could tell it's selected by that little dot next to it. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and you can see that my shelf is selected here. So now I'm going to create another component here, create new component. I'm going to name this the back. You can name it the front as well. So again, my parent company is selected, which is here. So if it's not selected, just make sure that you go ahead and select that. So you can see here my back has been created as well. So I've got two components here. Nothing is drawn in either one of those. So I'm going to start with the shelf. So I want to go ahead and make sure that I click to activate my component for my shelf. All right, so you want to make sure, since we're working on the shelf, everything that we're going to create is going to be in whatever active component we are in. So if you see here, if I activate this component, everything would be saved here. If I activate my shelf, everything I work on. So if I'm working on my shelf, I want to be in this component. If I'm working on my back, I would be here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and save this. So make sure that you go to your folder. All right, and again, we're going to save this first initial period, your last name, space, P, and then your class period. I'm putting 0, and then what this is. All right, and this is my third version of it. So I just put phone stand 3. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click save. This should be your actual class period. So make sure that you go into your class period and click on your folder to select into that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click save. So now it's saved. So again, I'm starting with my shelf. So I want to make sure that my shelf is an active component. Everything that we do starts with a sketch, so create sketch. I like to always select the that front plane to do all of our drawings on. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and get started with my drawings. Just real quick, document setup. Make sure that you check that and make sure it's in inches. If it's not, go ahead and change that. All right, so just click on that. It should be set up in inches since that's what we've set it up with for our last project. Again, I'm in my shelf. So I'm just going to start with a rectangle. I like to always start on my 0, 0. Just makes life a little bit easier. And if you remember, the rectangle for our shelf is 3 inches wide. Hit the tab key and 4.5 inches tall. Okay, so you can see I've got my dimensions here. So there's a couple things we can do. I can continue to go ahead and draw out all my parts on this, but I found that if we ever need to make changes, it's easier if we do each part as a separate sketch, and you'll see how that works. So I've got my my main piece drawn out, so I'm going to click Finish Sketch, and all I want to do is click on Extrude, and I'm going to extrude this the thickness of my plywood. Okay, so I've measured the plywood. We're using 1/2 inch plywood. It's not actually a 1/2 inch. So the thickness for our plywood is 0.485, and you can see that on the plans here. Our thickness of our material is 0.485. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in my extrusion of 0.485. All right, go ahead and click OK. So that is the main body for our shelf. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and save. I like to always try to save pretty frequently, so I went ahead and saved our work. So from here, this is our first major setup. So I've kind of talked about setting up our components. So you can see here we've got our main component is the actual project that we're creating, and then we've got our shelf component, and then we've got our back component. Right now I'm working in my shelf component. So stay tuned for the next video, and we will start to lay out some of these other cutouts that we're going to be creating.